Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So we are going to be doing some, I guess, like sketching and doodling in my sketchbook for today's little video session. So I have been drawing mostly on one side of our spread, so we're going to skip this one once again, and I'm going to be going to a fresh new spread so that we can just do kind of like a continuous filling of the page once again in my sketchbook. I will go back to the other one a little bit later. Also, I'm not going to hide the fact that my pencil case right now is very disorganized. I have just like slapped every traditional tool medium that I had on my desk into my pencil case. So because I haven't been using any traditional art supplies recently, I have left it disorganized probably since last week. So yeah, we're just going to clear that out for now. And we're just going to start off with using the BIC Mechanical Pencil to do some very light sketching at first. And today's like theme, or I guess because I haven't been sketching too often, because I've been mostly doing rendering, I guess here and there is what mostly I've been working on. So I haven't been actually working in my sketchbook at all lately, and probably won't for a little while other than these videos, because I still have con prep to do, and most of my like downtime, I would say, goes to mostly Pokopia, which I'm going to talk about a lot in this video. So I do apologize if you guys aren't really Pokemon fans or interested in this game. It's just kind of something I've let my brain kind of like rest a little bit on. So for today's session, at least, I also wanted to do something more Pokemon related, because that's kind of like on my forefront of my brain right now. So I guess like the whole entire premise of the sketches that I'm going to be doing is basically my OC Masaki, which I guess like the first sketch that I'm currently working on is not my favorite. And I know it's going to be a little bit harder to see right now, but later on, first of all, I fix the lighting a little bit, but then second, I will be able to do a little bit of like painting, and we're going to go over things with a ballpoint pen to kind of like finalize some things. That's kind of like the process we're going to take today for this entire spread. But even though Pokopia is kind of like the main fixation that I have right now, the thing that I wanted to draw was mostly just kind of like in Pokemon AU for my OCs. I guess well, let's flip that around. An AU for my OCs that is based in kind of like the Pokemon world. Masaki I've always seen to be like a Pokemon breeder kind of type, so he takes care of a lot of like the Pokemon, maybe runs or participates at some sort of like Pokemon daycare, and often takes care of like environments for them and all that stuff. So something to do with a little bit of gardening here and there, as well as taking care of like these cuter, smaller Pokemon. So I feel like that's very fitting for him. So right off the bat, other than drawing him with like gardening supplies, aka the watering can, the second sketch that I ended up drawing, which is the one that I'm working on right now, he is holding a Swadloon, which is like one of my favorite Pokemon visually, because he's just like a rotund little shy bug. He kind of has like a leaf blanket that he wraps around himself, and he has like little leaves on his head that kind of resembles like little ears or a sprout. So I think he's like very cute. He's a little bit more, I was gonna say he kind of looks like a tsundere, but then I'm like, he kind of has the expression that I give Kaisen a lot, so he does resemble Kaisen a little bit in my eyes. So maybe that's why I'm so attached to this little guy, because I love drawing more of like a frustrated or like pissed off face for Kaisen. So I ended up drawing that for Masaki, because I feel like that's like one of the Pokemon that he would be very much like wanting to take care of, because he looks like a bug that kind of struggles, or a grass type that struggles. I think he's half grass, half bug. But when he grows up or evolves, he becomes Leavanny, which is like a Pokemon that also takes care of other Pokemon. So I feel like it's very fitting for Masaki, and it like weaves clothes and stuff. So I feel like it's a very helpful Pokemon. So just that line I do like. I do like Swadloon the most out of them, and then probably Sewaddle the least. Maybe it's because it resembles the bug the most, but you know, still very cute. Then this is kind of where the Pokopia kind of re-enters my brain a little bit when we're doing the last sketch. So the last sketch on the very end of our spread on the right hand side, we have Masaki. I was going to attempt to draw a few berries inside of a wooden basket type of situation, a wooden box. So it looks like he's just like out to pick berries, and he's like returning back to where he's headed with the berries, and he's kind of like stopped by Hoppip. I'm going to be drawing Skip Plume and Jumpluff, because one, I'm very attached to, well, there's a lot of Pokemon that I find like very endearing and very cute, and I feel like any Pokemon is. I do have one that is like I have a vendetta against, and it's very weird and strange, but I'll talk about it a little bit later because there's no rhyme or reason why I don't like this Pokemon other than I think visually he's kind of silly in a I don't know how to explain it. We'll talk about it later, but I do like grass types a lot and I like ghost types. So the first kind of event for Pokopia happens to be the Hoppip event, and in the Hoppip event you get to collect these little, I think they're cotton spores. They kind of look like the little dandelion puffs that you blow off, like the dandelion seeds. So actually, before we get to that, for coloring, we are going to be using watercolors because I was very indecisive if I was going to do these as all pencil sketches, if I was going to break out my colored pencils and maybe work that way, or maybe we're going to use water-based markers, make a limited color palette. But instead, I'm going to let myself be indecisive by using watercolors. I will just mix up the colors that I want to use. We'll see how light or how bright I want to make them. And then later on, we're going to do a little bit of inking because I left everything kind of like light on purpose because I was not sure on which direction I wanted to go right away. But back onto the topic of my favorite types. So over the years, I feel like growing up, I've always been more attached to water and grass types. And I feel like maybe I leaned that way only because I was always attached to whatever starter that I ended up with. And I've talked about it in the past that the first Pokemon game that I played was Pokemon Sapphire. So my brother had Ruby and I got Sapphire. So because of that, I ended up picking Mudkip because I thought he was the cutest. I always like the cute kind of derpy-ish. I don't know if Mudkip's considered derpy, but I feel like Torchic is very cute. Just overall, if I had to categorize them. Trico is very like cool, but then I find Mudkip a little bit more like silly cute. So I feel like I gravitated towards Mudkip. And then for the Kanto region, because I played Fire Red after I played Pokemon Sapphire, and I ended up picking, because I played 2 different files, I think, at some point because I was so attached to the 2 games. I think I started off with Squirtle and then later on I switched to Bulbasaur. So I did end up having 2 different files where I started my first playthrough with Squirtle and evolved it all the way up to Blastoise. And then once I finished the game, I think maybe like a year passed or something like that. And then I ended up, erasing that file, starting over again and choosing Bulbasaur. So I've always liked the grass types and the water types, and then any subsequent game that came out, I think I only chose the grass types. With the exception of Pokemon Soul Silver, I guess, because I never played the original Gold or Silver. I was a bit too young, I think, by the time we were into Pokemon, like me and my brother. We watched like childhood friends play it because one of them gave Silver to my brother to play. So I watched them play Silver. But in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I ended up picking Totodile. Totodile was definitely my favorite. Something about Chikorita was just like, I don't know. Maybe it's the anime that kind of like swayed me. I like the sillier one, so I picked Totodile. Even though Cyndaquil I think is like the cutest out of the starters out of that line. But then after those 3 generations, I ended up solely picking only grass types, like all the way through. So there's like no doubt about that the new game that's going to come out, so I think it's Winds and Waves, I'm going to be picking Brout. Brout just looks like an angry bird, but he's so cute. His eyebrows are like little leaf sprouts, which I think is super cute. He's like rotund and round. Just very, very adorable. So back to what we're painting, I guess. So for the most part, watercolor is very like straightforward and simple. I do forget sometimes it does appear a little bit more splotchy because this is a paper without any sizing in it, so it doesn't really absorb into the paper super well. But as long as like my page is clean, I don't really run into the issue of it pooling in an odd way where it's not going into the paper. Usually if I have hand cream or if I have any oils on my hands and I accidentally, touch my paper a little bit too much, you might have like areas of oil that will kind of like repel the water a little bit and kind of suspend your paint. Just enough that it becomes like a pooling effect. So luckily it didn't happen here, but it can happen. So I usually am a little bit wary. But for the most part, I left everything fairly light at first. I think Hoppip and Skiploom and later on Jumpluff will definitely get like a second pass because I wanted them to stand out a little bit more. So out of like all the sketches here, I like the ones more towards the right hand side. I also just like how I drew Hoppip, Skiploom, and John Pluff. So for Pokopia, that one, the first event, I'm kind of glad it was like Hoppip because I find that line so cute, and just like the premise of it. So you get to collect these little cotton spores. You can trade the cotton spores to Hoppip and collect any of the items that they're selling within your Pokemon Center. So there's like dandelion seeds that you can get, and you can get Skiploom and Jumpluff because you can make their little habitats, which just happens to be, I think, 4 squares of like dandelion flowers, which I think is super cute. So for now, I think I might be actually, yeah, I might show a few pictures of what I'm currently working on. So in the game Pokopia, you have like the 4 main areas. So you have like the withered wastelands, you have rocky ridges, you have, is it Bleak Beach? I think. And then you have the something Skylands. I forgot what it is, but it's like all of kind of like alliterations. And then you have Pallet Town. And Pallet Town's kind of like your blank canvas area, I guess. You get to rename it. So for me, I made it Carrotland. It's kind of like a little bit of a running joke between me and my friends. So oftentimes if we have to make like a town or a world file together, we name it Carrotland, but it's like Carrot, it's like the vegetable land, and it's just like a pun off of like Carrotland of 17. So 17's fan base is called Carrot, and every, I guess like very close to usually their anniversary for when Carrots got their name as like the fandom name, they have like a fan meeting concert type of thing called Carrotland. So because of that, I've been using that as kind of like my island name or like village name or town name or world file, save file, whatever you want to call it, for a while. So this time called it Carrotland again. So my goal is to make things very pink and blue. Kind of for like that 17 rose quartz and serenity type of vibe. And because of that, I've been on the hunt for any like pink and blue flowers. I do like a lot of the white ones as well. And I just saw like a screenshot recently of someone's build or like a little habitat or whatever you want to call it, because you can get really creative with like making things in Pokopia. It's kind of like Minecraft-esque where you can build things with blocks and then use them and make different buildings or different, I don't even know what you called them, like little areas. Like you could turn it into a subway station. You can make it very much like looking like Tokyo or like New York, or you can go very like cozy cottagecore. You can make it like a forest, like anything like that. So for me, because I'm looking for mostly blue and pink flowers and like all that, you can get like these really cute bushes and hedges. So I saw this person post a screenshot of like one of their little builds, and they have blue hydrangeas, and I'm just like, where do I find these? I have ones that are like bluish purple, kind of like a mix, but I want the blue ones because they look so pretty. And then I saw, oh, I don't know what kind of flowers they are. They're kind of more vertical. I'm blanking on the name. It's almost like in a conical shape, but has like individual flowers. And in this game, it's more of like a gradient. So I believe the pinkish one has almost like a red base, and then it goes to more of like a bright pink to a pale pink to, I think, white at the top. And then there's another one where it's like purple, I think like a very pale purple goes to white. And then there's a blue one, which I've never seen before, but I really want them. And I think there's also like a white hydrangea kind of like bush hedge type of thing. So I want to see where I can get them, because I'm pretty sure it's probably from Dream Islands, because I did not find like blue tulips anywhere. But when I visited my brother's like island, he had blue tulips, so I like immediately snapped a photo so I could take them. And he told me he found his on a Dream Island, so I really need to explore the other Dream Islands so I can get more of these flowers, because I don't want to waste so many like Pokemetal. I want to like loot an entire island for their flowers and like their bushes and hedges and like their trees, so that I can make everything pink and blue basically. But with a little break, we are on to the inking process. So for, I don't know, a lot more like drier mediums or anything that has like a little bit of texture, or sometimes like some wet mediums, whatever you want to call it. Oftentimes, like if I'm using colored pencils as well, ballpoint pen is kind of like the go-to if I want to do inking, where if I'm scared it might not adhere to the medium and or the page, ballpoint pen usually is like the go-to for just having less of a hard time thinking about whether or not the ink will stick. Sometimes when I'm using like the Energel Clena and has more of like that gel pen, rollerball, needlepoint ink kind of consistency, sometimes depending on what medium you have on your sketchbook, or if you maybe have like residue or anything like that, it just doesn't absorb entirely. For the most part, I feel like the ink dries like pretty quickly into the page, but anything that's like blocking it from being absorbed, it does make it a nightmare because your hand is going to be constantly accidentally like smearing all that wet ink. And ballpoint pen is like has very little ink blottage if you find the right one. So I am using the Pentel RSVP, which is my favorite because it's very mechanical pencil like, has like a very sharp point. I feel like the ink consistency is not as liquidy, and because of that, it doesn't leave like random ink blots as you do some inking. So previously when I've used some other ballpoint pens, I think like the older Papermate ones or BIC pens, the more that you use it, kind of like the roller ball part, I don't know if it's just like collecting the residue because it's not rolling back into itself, if that makes sense. It's like there's like an edge with a ball that rolls that makes the ink kind of like flow, but I'm sure it's getting caught on kind of like the little edge before it like re-enters back into the pen as you kind of like roll it across. It basically collects the ink, and sometimes you get like a random blot on your page where the ink dispenses everything all together right where you're writing or you're drawing. And sometimes it's annoying because you want fine lines and then boom, a blot, or you don't see the blot and you run your hand through it and it's not fully dried. So that's the only annoying part I feel like that is for like ballpoint pens. But for the Pentel RSVP, the inconsistency for me at least is definitely more on the drier side. And because of that, it's very much like mechanical pencil-esque because you can get super thin lines. If you take the time, you can definitely darken up your lines really well, and like it makes it a little bit easier for you to get some darker areas for that contrast, which is kind of like what I wanted for finishing up these sketches. I think I realized a little bit too late that I forgot to add some of the yellow to the Lepa berries, so I ended up not finishing the rest of the basket. But for the most part, had a lot of fun doing the inking portion because we can add a little bit of texture here and there. We're making some of the other sketches just kind of like pop forward. I feel like Hot Pip, Skip Plume, and Jump Lip kind of needed that because they're definitely losing their form quite a bit. And I forgot that Skip Plume, so if you guys aren't familiar with Pokemon, Skip Plume is the green one, Hoppip is the pink one, and then Jumpluff is the blue one at the bottom that kind of looks like a blueberry. So Skip Plume also has kind of like a V-shaped mouth or like a heart shape, which I find very cute, and it kind of gives me a little bit more of like Masaki vibes. So definitely wanted to draw them alongside with Masaki because they're very, very cute grass types that I really, really like. But hopefully I kind of sprinkled in some screenshots of me and kind of like what my current Pokopia palette town looks like as Carrotland. So I have a lot of things that are just kind of like strewn about because I'm kind of keeping everything in one area for now so I can continuously build and hopefully not kind of moving their habitats everywhere in the meantime. Also, because I didn't have enough time to actually play the game today, I just did like the bare minimum of my dailies. So I wanted to go to a dream island to collect some resources, which I wanted to collect Pokemetal so that I can 3D print more like hedges and flowers and all that stuff for my island. But the one that I went to is like the Dragonite plush, and if you go to that one, you have a chance of encountering Mewtwo, and for some reason, I did think that this island looked a little bit strange because it had the mysterious stone, which is like this iridescent looking block looking thing on the island, which usually from the last times I've been to this island, it was not there. So lo and behold, Mewtwo is in my Carrotland right now, and I decided to put him in my house because I do not know what habitat he needs. So right now he's living in my Carrotland little leaf hut. Yeah. But I've been enjoying Pokopia so much, but also we finished our little spread. The sketch on the left-hand side, it just had too many issues. I think the sketch was like okay-ish. The watercolor solidified all my mistakes, and then I was unable to kind of like correct and fix it with the ballpoint pen, so he's gonna look very, very derpy. But I think that's it for today's little sketchbook session. I apologize, I talked mostly just about Pokopia in this video, but hopefully I'll talk to you guys next time in the next one though. Bye!